Let's head out to one of my favorite towns in all of America, Harrisonburg, Virginia, in Bridgeport Stadium, where the Marshall Herd come into town to take on the James Madison Dukes, one of my favorite programs in all of college football. Both of these, really. 8 p.m. kickoff on Saturday night on ESPNU. James Madison favored by 3.5 points in this one. And Brad, before we came on the air, we were talking about this matchup. Marshall comes into this game at 6-1 in their division in the SunBelt, and they still go by division. Then you look at the second team in the division in Georgia Southern at 5-2. This is a big game for both of these teams, but this is an even bigger game for the Marshall Herd. Brad, I'm going to turn it over to you. Can they come out with a win and make the SunBelt Conference Championship, or will they lose and go home in turmoil, giving the lead to Georgia Southern?
Yeah, Nate, James Madison's a team that we've talked about a couple of times here this season. I can't recall us talking about Marshall, but I'm very, very impressed with the job that Coach Charles Huff has done there. And Nate, one thing that stands out to me, and we know that momentum is so big in college football, just from play to play and drive to drive, but also, looking at these teams from week to week. I mean, Marshall is on a really, really nice win streak here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That Marshall's on a nice little 5-game winning streak. And meanwhile, James Madison lost a tough one to Appalachian State last week. So, the old saying in college football is you cannot let one loss, turn into two. And I think that has got to be in the back of the Duke's mind. Nate, so many intriguing storylines in this one. And to me, this one comes down to, this quarterback matchup. Marshall's quarterback, Braylon Braxton, he transfers from Tulsa. And Nate, I was looking at his numbers, in his career, nothing earth-shattering. 2022, 10 touchdowns to 2 picks. Last year, 2 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. But he transfers to Marshall, little, change of scenery, and it's done him good. 16 touchdowns, just 2 interceptions this year. Really has had a nice bounce back year. And then, of course, we've talked about this guy, but Alonzo Barnett the third for James Madison, 24 touchdowns, 3 picks on the year. He's so efficient. He's so good. But, Nate, the thing that stood out to me is both of these teams do a really, really good job of collapsing the pocket. They do a good job of getting after the quarterback. Marshall with 34 team sacks, James Madison with 32. That stood out to me. When you talk about these two quarterbacks and their ability, to win games with their arm, but also extend plays. These defensive lines and these front sevens are going to have to play a key part in this showdown. Because of just the win streak they're on, I'm going with the Thundering Herd. I think James Madison, they're feeling some pressure. Marshall is too, because like you mentioned in the intro, Marshall has a chance to absolutely get to the SunBelt championship game and clinch their division. But I think Marshall's just the better team. I think they've got the better defense, and give me the Thundering Herd in this one.
Yeah, Brad, this is a tough pick for me. You mentioned so many great things about both of these teams, and to your point and to what we were discussing before the episode, it's shocking to see James Madison 4-3 in the SunBelt. The first 2 years, they exceeded expectations, and that's why you got Kirk Cinetti coaching for a 10-1 Indiana team that just lost to Ohio State. That coach, he wins wherever he goes. So you expect James Madison to roll over, and even without their coach, still come into this year and pick up right where they left off. Still have an 8-3 record, which is pretty dang good, if you ask me. I think a lot of fan bases out there would hope for a season like that year in and year out, even at the upper competition. So when you look at this game specifically, first you look at the Marshall Herd and you look at their scoring attack, 30 points per game. You look at their rushing attack. They got 206 yards rushing per game. That's big. I always look for the rushing attack and how their defense plays, because that's what's really going to control the games. The defensive front, and we always talk about the two front lines, the offense and defensive line. What about the rushing attack? If you got a good rushing attack, you can control the game. Marshall has that. They're averaging 206 yards per game, and they put up 15 touchdowns this year, over 2,000 yards rushing. That's pretty dang good. Look at their scoring defense. They've allowed 22 points per game, only allowing about 229 points on the year. And then you look at the team facing them in James Madison Dukes. They're averaging about 33 points per game on offense and about 188 yards per game rushing, but they have 17 touchdowns and also over 2,000 yards rushing on the year. Then you look at their defense. They're allowing 19 points per game and only 214 points per game on the year. It goes neck and neck. There's no way, shape, or form about it. I messed that quote up completely, but you get the point. It's a very close matchup. Vegas thinks it's going to be close to it, a 3.5 point spread. In the end, I'm going to take the Marshall herd as well. I think they got the momentum. And at the end of the year, Brad, we've talked about this time and time again. It's all about the momentum. Who's playing best later on in the season? And right now, it's Marshall. Marshall's playing better, and I think they're going to carry that momentum into James Madison. I don't know what the weather's going to be like. I know it's going to be frigid cold probably. It's going to be like a freezer. But I think Marshall's going to get up for this one. They're used to playing in cold weather. I think they're going to be ready for this one. But make no doubt about it, this is going to be one of the best matchups we've seen this weekend. Let us know down in the comments who you think is going to come out on top in this SunBelt key matchup between Marshall and James Madison on ESPNU at 8 p.m. on Saturday night.